Hello and welcome to this second tutorial video on how to make a pinafore and bonnet for your ragdoll. These four pieces are going to form the frill at the armhole of our pinafore, and you're going to have to take my word for it when I tell you that I'm placing the right sides together and the wrong sides out, because it's not a very obvious right and wrong side on this fabric. There is a very slight difference just in the texture, and so I'm going to pin those together and then repeat that for the other armhole, and then when both of those are done I'm going to sew all the way around the outside curve on both of them. Now sadly, when I've zoomed in here I've gotten a little bit fuzzy, and that can happen after a long day at work, but you're going to have to bear with me. I think we're in close enough that you can see what I'm doing. I'm turning the right side out, and I'm just going to pin this just to help keep the two sides together, because I'm not going to iron it, and that will just stop it moving about, make it much easier for me to work on the straight edge. And you really should iron all of your seams, and when you turn out right side, iron out all of your fabric pieces. It makes them much easier to work with. One more here. This is kind of a cheeseclothy textured fabric, and ironing might spoil it. And then what I'm going to do is gather using running stitch, and I've got a contrasting coloured thread so that I can identify it to take it out later. I'm going to just do running stitch all the way along the length of this straight open edge, now that it's right side out. Mind your fingers on the pins, and I'll put a link to our running stitch tutorial. It's a very basic in and out stitch, but just in case you want a reminder. If you get tangled around your pins at this point, you can get rid of them because they've served their purpose. Running stitch right to the end. And then, once I've done my running stitch and pulled my thread through, I'm going to bring in a ruler, because I want my frill to be roughly 11 centimeters. It doesn't have to be exactly, it can be a little over because we can gather it once it's in position, but 11 centimeters is the space you have between the notches. So just pull on the loose end and it'll start to curl and gather. And then don't worry about the frill or gather being even at this point, because she'll adjust that once you pin it into position. But just roughly 11 centimeters or slightly over is good. And once you've got it to the right sort of length, I'm going to give it a little extra tuck because that's straightened out at this end. Just tie a knot to hold it to that length, and we'll just do exactly the same for the other frill. Now I'm going to position that frill into the body of the pinafore, and the first thing I need to do with these two parts of the back is remove them. I only need two sections of back and only need one section of front, so these three pieces will form either the outer or the inner of your pinafore. So here's the right side. I'm going to turn this around so the armholes, these deeper curves, are on the outside. It can get twisted around and you can end up sewing a curve of a neck to an armhole. It's a very peculiar shape then. So make sure your armholes are together on the outside and the curves of the neck are together on the inside, and then pin together. And then repeat that on the other side, pinning together at the shoulder so that you have two areas you sew here at the shoulder, and that's the shape you've got. Once that's done, you repeat with the other 3 sections, and here's your completed either outer or inner. They're exactly the same. And here's my frill. I'm going to find the middle by folding it and position that at the seam there. So this is right side out frill to right side of the body, and then I place the other one over the top, so it's all right sides together on the inside and wrong sides out, and then I'm going to pin that frill into position. Your armhole has notches marked, and that's the outer edge of the frill, so you want to make sure that the frill is between the 2 notches on this armhole. That means you'll have, going to the edge here, you'll have an area where there is no frill. So find that notch, position the bottom of the frill there, and leave this bottom section with no frill in it. Pin that in place, and then I'm going to do the same at the other side. So I'm shuffling the frill along and pinning it into position so that the very bottom of the frill will line up with the notch, leaving an area sewn together but with no frill in it there. So that's the frill pinned in place. Once that's all done, go from one outside edge all the way around to the other outside edge. Now I've made a loop with my little bit of elastic. These are the short bits of elastic that will hold the buttons, and the circle of the loop goes in between the 2 layers of the back section on one side, and I'm just going to make a few stitches over the top of here at the 3 points to hold them in place. Once that's done and these little back bits are sticking out a little bit there, I'm going to sew right the way over the top. This will make them really secure, and then all the way around the neck, and then right the way down to the bottom. That's all done. So all the way up, all the way around and down, and now I'm going to bag it out. I'm going to turn it right side out through this wider front section. So I'm turning the back, the smaller, shorter back bit, I'm turning through the shoulder hole and pulling it right sides out. And we start to see it looking like our pinafore top now. That frill looks beautiful. Don't get mixed up and try and go the other way, otherwise you're literally going to get in a knot. So through the wide front section, push the smaller back piece through the shoulder area there, and then lay it all out flat. This is another good time to give it an iron if you're using a fabric that you can iron. There we go. That's all done. And now what I'm going to do, once I'll poke that bit flat there, I'm going to fold it in half. I'm going to fold the back bits over the top. This is all right side out now. All right side out. And here I have 4 layers of fabric, and I'm going to take the middle 2 and pin them together. So that's 1 piece from the front and 1 piece from the back. Again, the middle 2 sections, and pin them together. So this is down the side of the bodice of the pinafore, and I'm going to sew from the armpit down to the waistline on those 2 pieces. Now these are my ties for the back, and I'm just going to fold them right sides in. I'm going to pin all the way along the length. I'll just put a few pins in here rather than my usual hundreds of pins. And there is a technique. We're going to turn these right side out, which can be awkward. There is a little technique that I might make a little tutorial video and show you rather than you poking at it desperately, which is where you actually you sew a little bit of thread to one end and pull it all the way through. I'll make a video. Sew up here along this short edge and sew all the way along the long edge. Leave the other end open. Do the same with the other one. So this is the end we're going to leave open, just this short area, and then turn them right side out, and here they are. Now we've got the inside bit there is sewn together, and we've got two open sides, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift both of these up, tuck the frill of the arm underneath, don't catch that when you're sewing, and I'm going to take the open end of one of these ties and I'm going to place it into position between them. So the tie is right side out and it's against the right sides of the fabric of my pinafore, and I'll pin that into position. I'll pop another one in there just to keep that in place, and I'm going to sew along there. Now I'm going to just show you that again on the other side because it's a little complicated. So I've got two that are still not sewn. I'm going to fold those together and tuck the arm frill underneath. So these are now right sides together, wrong sides out. So it makes a long line like that, and then I'm going to take the open end of my tie and put it into position. The other thing you want to check here as well is that the seam of your tie is at the bottom, and then pin that into position like that, and then we're going to sew all the way along there as well. So one last pin there, and then you've got your tie in position, and that's the top of our pinafore completed. That concludes our tutorial video. I hope it's been helpful. If it has, please subscribe. We'd love your feedback and a like. There are more videos coming soon.